Hey everyone, welcome back to another course. Today we're going to be talking about field configurations. This is part of our getting started with Jira administration. And we're just going to jump right in. So let me share my screen and welcome Chad. He's one of our members here. So welcome, welcome, welcome. And for everybody else, welcome chat. And we are more than happy to have you here. Feel free to use that chat. Actually, we're going to go through the slides here real quick. Again, welcome to Field Configurations. This is part of our Getting Started with Jira. A couple of reminders: this session is being recorded. It's going to be available on this YouTube channel as soon as we're done here. And so make sure you hit the subscribe button. We just crossed over 26,000 subscribers, but very, very far away from our goal of 100,000 subscribers. So if you're watching this and you haven't hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit that subscribe button now. Turn on your notifications because we do go live quite a bit here. And so if you don't want to miss out on all these trainings, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And yes, Mike, check. Thank you. Yes, I was going to ask about the mic. This always worries me a little bit. So thank you so much. You can tell who's the regular, right? You can tell who the real ones are by the people that help me out with the mic check. So for everybody else, if you can just let me know your name, where you're tuning in from, that would be so appreciated. I just love to see where everybody is and the different parts of the world, and just get to say hi to you. There is a chat leaderboard as well. So the more you chat, the more higher up you are going to be on the leaderboard here. So ask questions, interact, be a part of the community. And then the top 3 get like a special badge from YouTube. So definitely interact in the chat. And I'm going to be mentioning and monitoring that chat throughout the entire thing. Now, if you want to be cool like my buddy Chad here, become a member. You get early access to videos. I'm scheduling live streams. Behind the scenes stuff. I'm putting together a huge event, and so I'm just going to bring you along with it as a member. So if you want to not only just help contribute to the channel, but also kind of see how the sausage is made, if you will, definitely consider becoming a member. There's a lot of opportunities there. And again, you do get early access to all my videos, and you get member-only videos, live streams, and again, this behind the scenes stuff. Now, for everybody else, we are going to be doing a 3-day summit. We are going to be in October. If you're in the Southern California area, or if you want to get to the Southern California area at the end of October, we're going to be hosting a summer camp. We're going to be hosting a winter summit. It's called the Alaskan Builder Summit. It's a 3-day event happening October 22nd to the 24th. It's in Long Beach. We only have 150 seats available, folks. I've been to the hotel, and this stuff is expensive, and so we are going to cap it at 150 people. But if you want to participate and get a free copy of the Big Book of Atlassian, this is going to be about 250 pages at this point. We have been developing it nonstop for the last week. So if you want to get a big copy of the Big Book of Atlassian, I'm going to be teasing everything that's going to be in the book. But we're going to have guides, we're going to have checklists, we're going to have cheat sheets, run books, playbooks, pretty much anything and everything you could possibly need to be successful with the Atlassian tools. It's going to be in the book. And the only place, I repeat, the only place to get this book is going to be at the event. So it's completely free. You just have to get your travel and accommodations done. We are providing a link to users or to attendees to get a little bit of a discount there on the hotel. But if you can get your company to pay for it and you want to pick up a copy of your big book, let me know, or definitely sign up using the link that I put there in the chat. I will also let you know that we're working on a referral program as well. So we're going to be working on some free goodies and stuff like that for if you bring some of your team members with you to the summit. So come check it out. Register if you can. Is the book Jira guy approved? I hope so, because for a small fee, Rodney, we'll put powered by the Jira guy here as well. So let me know. Have your people talk to my people. Chat says I'll be in that area at those exact times, but on vacation. I know my life will not. Bring the wife. It's gonna be by the Queen Mary, and there's Catalina's, the walking distance to the boats that go to Catalina Island, and so stop by. It's free, so evenings, afternoons, you never know. Your people are my people. We should chat then, Rodney. We should definitely have a chat. But anyways, huge event happening October 22nd to the 24th. So talk to your bosses, talk to whoever you got to get to. Can we have a soft copy of the book? Tushar asks. So the answer is no. The only place to get the book in physical form, because we're only making these physical, is going to be at the event. So if you want this, the FOMO's got to be real. The only place you're going to get that book is at the conference. So if you're not there, you're going to lose out. It's also my anniversary. I'm telling you, see, you go, you show up, you do the conference, and then Saturday and Sunday, you just take the cruise out to Catalina Island and you just hang out on the island for a little bit. So, so yeah, so we'll have some fun there. All right. Enough of that event. Again, sign up using the link in the chat. A little bit about me. My name's Alex, and I teach people how to use Jira. I have a background in IT, and I have the ACP 520, 120, and 620. And I'm currently studying for the 420. Although the more I study for the 420, the less comfortable I am, and the more worried I am that I'm going to fail the 420. But I am studying for the JSM one right now. I am obviously on this channel here, so hit the subscribe button here. But I also do the co-host with the Jira Life with Rodney here, who's my people is our people. And no, Rodney, no Disney, because I'm actually blocked on the 20 after the event. And so there will not be Disney. And I also, after the event is over, I'm only going to have a week left of my Disney passes. So I don't know if I want to renew because it's $6,000 to renew. And given if people show up or don't show up to this event, I might be broke at the end of October. So I'm not too sure about Disney right now. So yeah, if you guys can come to the event, it'll be awesome. And then I won't go broke. All right. So anyways, I dropped the link here. Let me drop a link. If you want, I did drop the link. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Check out the YouTube channel. Check out everything I'm involved with. I have free stuff, paid stuff. I have all kinds of stuff, merch stores and everything. So check them all out. All right. Enough of the advertising. I like to try to keep it into within 5 minutes. We're going to be covering two major things today. We're going to go over field configurations and field configuration schemes. But before we get in the chat, I have a question for you. I have a very, very important question. If you're all multitasking, give me 10 seconds of your life here. In the chat, if you can type in either give me an emoji or a +1. But if you have ever made a field required and basically have halted all issue creation, work item creation inside of Jira, please raise your hand. I want to see. And I'm not raising my hand too because I've done it. But in the chat, if you have ever made a field required and didn't understand why nobody else would create items, work items in Jira, please let me know. I want to know if I'm the only one out there, but I can't be the only one. So we got Chad with the dab here. So Chad has definitely done this. Anybody else have the courage to publicly admit that they have accidentally made the fields required? We got Melinda Smith here. Rodney says, I haven't, but I've had to fix it from someone else who had. I'm sure you did it at some point, Rodney. Jamesh Show says guilty. So anybody else guilty? Because I cannot be the only one. Okay, so there's 34 of you. I would hope that we have 34 hands up here because this is something that has been a pain, but I'm going to show you how to avoid a catastrophic failure of Jira. Rodney says legitimately he has never done this. I find that so hard to believe, Rodney. Karen says had to fix my boss's mistake. That I've seen that before too. Rodney says I can't help it if I'm just a better Jira admin than Alex. You know what? I was a wee lad little boy when I did this for the first time back in 2017 or 2016. So I didn't know any better when I started off. So luckily for you all, you're here, you're attending this class. So we're going to switch over to Jira. And we're going to talk about field configurations, what they are, how they work, what they do, and then show you how to properly make fields required because it's a little bit more of an art and a science. But there's a right way to do it, and there's a way that's not going to get us in trouble. Okay. So in the chat, again, keep them coming in. If you've ever made this mistake, I'd love to hear it, right? So Tushar says, same, I did in 2010 when I started. Yeah. I think you're right of passage, right? You cannot become a Jira admin. So Rodney, I would say Rodney is not a true Jira admin if you've never accidentally made your fields required. What do y'all think, chat? Do you think that the rite of passage, do you earn your Jira admin stripes by making this mistake? Because I personally feel you don't know what it's like to be a true Jira admin until you've accidentally made this mistake. Anybody with me on this one? Let me know in the chat. Okay, so what's a field configuration? So let's kind of back it up, and I'm going to show you some logistics here. I'm going to zoom in. Whoa, we're zooming in on the wrong screen here. I'm going to zoom in on Jira to kind of help you out and give you some context in case some of you are going like, what are y'all talking about? Rodney says, you earn your Jira admin stripes by renaming status. In the chat, let me know. Raise your hand. Give me an emoji. Has anybody ever renamed a status in Jira? I'm kind of curious on that one too. So if you've ever renamed your statuses in Jira and that has bitten you in the butt, let me know. Chad's going to plead the fifth on this one. Yeah, you probably maybe pleading the fifth is a wise thing to do when we're on the internet in case your bosses are watching, right? We don't want our bosses to know we made mistakes. Tushar says a big no, a big no. Melinda's a nope. So we have a couple people that are wise enough to not rename a status, but not wise enough to set those fields required. So Karen says, "Yep, did that mistake too." So, folks, in case you've ever missed it, we have a funny. Well, I think it's funny, but we have a little inside joke where if you ever work for me and you ever make a field required incorrectly, or you rename a status in Jira, I'll fire you. And so these are my 2 fireable offenses. But in the chat, I'm kind of curious now. Those are my 2 fireable offenses, right? If you ever rename a status, or if you make a field required, those in my opinion, you shouldn't be doing that, especially if you know what you're doing at this point. But what else? What other major mistakes do you think are so major that if somebody did it, like there should be some serious consequences? Let me know in the chat, because Ronnie and I have been trying to come up with the 7 deadly sins of Jira, and we have 2 of them. So if somebody wants to help us come up with the other 5, let us know here in the chat. I think this would be totally cool. And yeah, Ronnie's totally derailing the class, but if we can walk away from this class having established our 7 deadly sins of Jira, then I'm gonna call this class a success. So think about what are those annoying things that you've done or somebody on your team has done that you've had to fix, that you then that you have to go and fix and just to bring Jira back to life. So we want to document what are the 7 deadly sins of Jira. Let us know in the chat. Okay. And while that's coming in through, I'm gonna go back into our field configuration. So what exactly is a field configuration? So field configurations are an interesting thing. I'm going to show you a couple of things here to kind of paint the picture, especially if you're new. So when you go to a project and you go to the project settings, you're going to go to the work item section, and you're going to see something very interesting. You're going to see screens and you're going to see fields. And I don't know why Atlassian did this. I think this is an interesting move from Atlassian, because when a user says, "Hey, Alex, can you add a custom field? Can you add a field like, I don't know, anticipated due date or requested due date or something like that," right? But when somebody asks for a custom field, maybe you want a custom field like acceptance criteria, right? Maybe you want a field for like definition of done, right? But at the end of the day, somebody asks for a field. And so you go and create the field. And then you're like, how do I add the field to my project? Well, it would be intuitive, right? It would be so intuitive if you came to the field section in your Jira project to add a field. Would you agree? Right? I think that this life would have been so much easier if Atlassian would have said, okay, you want to add a field? Let's go to the field section and add a field. But unfortunately, that's not what happens, right? When we have to add a field to Jira, we have to go to our screen, right? And as Chad says here, damn those screens, right? Like, I don't understand why we go to screens, but we go to screens to add fields. And the screen controls, right? So if I go to my create button here, if I want to add a field here, I think we have classification level here, right? We have a couple of fields here, but if I wanted to modify this for my bug, I come to my screens, I go to the bug screen scheme, I go to the bug screen, and we've covered all this, so this shouldn't be new. I go all the way to the bottom, and this is where I can basically add any custom field or any out of the box field that's available, right? And folks, spoilers, in case the field doesn't show up, that means it's already in the list most of the time, okay? But that's how we add a field to Jira. So then what the heck is a field configuration, right? Because if that's how we add a field, not through the field section, but rather through the screens, then what in the world are we doing with the field configuration? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about today. So field configurations serve a couple of different purposes. I've actually been quite surprised with all the different things you can do with screens. But the main reason, the main objective, the main purpose why we have field configurations, at least the main one that I use, is going to be for 2 main reasons. Okay. Number 1 is going to be to make a field required. All right. Definitely, if you want to make a field required, and I'm not talking about just any old required, like if you want to add a little red asterisk like this one here to a field, right? You want to make a field that you have to populate. So in order to hit the create button, you have to fill out the little red asterisk. The only way to add that little red asterisk is through the field configuration. Okay. And so I'm going to show you how to do that today. But the second one is to modify the text box. So when you look at something like acceptance criteria here, you see how we have text styles and we can make the text bold, we can make it italicized, right? We have formatting here. In order to be able to do this, to accomplish this, that's also going to be through the field configuration. Now, there's a couple of other things that we'll talk about as we explore field configurations, but those are the two main ones. And so I'm going to show you just right out of the gate here, how do we do those two things? Because then we're going to get nuance, right? Then we're going to go into a use case and talk a little bit about a story. But I am seeing a couple of things here in the chat. And so Tushar says, we're going to go back to our seven deadly sins here. So Tushar says, messing up shared schemes just required for one project. Okay, I can see that as a problem. We got be it in field configuration. So basically, if you mess up any of the schemes, like so what I understand this is, if you have a shared scheme that's shared with like 50 projects, very similar to making a field required, right? But if you were to modify a workflow that is shared with 20 projects, that would be a deadly sin, right? Not double checking that that your schemes are shared and one change just impacted a whole lot of people. I don't know, Ronnie, what do you think? Do you think we would add that one to a deadly sin? I kind of like it. Ronnie's own deadly sin here is duplicate field names. So yeah, that's a big, huge pain point. If you have 2 or more fields that are exactly the same name, oh, bless your soul, because Jira's going to hate you. We got Rajat says, adding a new custom field instead of checking if one. Yeah, so this is going to be in the line of duplicate field names, but very similar, right? Because this is slightly different. What I like about what Rajat has here, right, is you're creating fields that are so similar in name that they shouldn't exist, right? And my biggest pet peeve, one of my biggest pet peeve is due date with the little d, because that's the out of the box one. Jira has a due date field, and then somebody creating a due date field with a big D, right? Big D for due, big D for date. That is one of my biggest pet peeves, because you just made another field that has almost the exact same name, and it's too close for comfort. Rodney says the third reason to use the field configuration is to add custom project specific field descriptions. Yes. So there's a couple of reasons. There's more than 2 that I named. I was just calling out the 2 big ones that we normally do. But yeah, we're gonna show you a couple, especially also hiding the field. So yes, so folks, I should have been more clear. There's a few things you can do with field configurations, not just the 2 that I called out, but in my line of work and all the configurations that I've done, those are the 2 most popular ones that I'm usually coming to the field configuration. So that's I wanted to clarify that. So thank you all for keeping me honest on that one. Rajat says we got a bulk change. What about the bulk change would be a deadly sin? I kind of like bulk changes, but maybe you can give us a little bit more information. All right, folks. So as those keep coming in, I think we're probably up to what, maybe 4, Ronnie. We got the duplicate fields. I think would be a good one. Changing, maybe having too close of fields would be another good one. And then maybe modifying 2 shards, modifying the thing. So let's call that 3, 4, 5. So yeah, so we need 2 more deadly sins, folks. What are 2 major things that just drive you insane when somebody does them in Jira? Let us know in the chat here. Okay, so let's go to our field configurations and let's keep talking about our field configuration scheme here. So one of the interesting things that you got to know, right, is when you click on fields, you're actually in the field configuration scheme. And then within that scheme, there's a field configuration. And this field configuration out of the box, whenever you create a Jira project, and all subsequent Jira projects always share the default field configuration. So anytime that you create a brand new Jira project, it always defaults to this field configuration. So you can create 1,000 projects, you can create 10,000 projects. They're all going to default to use the same default field configuration. And this, folks, is why you have to be careful, because if you were to make a field required, right? If you were to click on actions, edit this fields here, right? And I come into acceptance criteria and I make this field required, right? Yes, my field's going to be required. So if I click the create button now and I go down to my acceptance criteria, you're going to see that I have the red asterisk now. That wasn't there a few moments ago, right? But the fact that we made that field required, it is now required for everybody and every work type that shares this default configuration scheme, which is every project and every issue type, work type. Geez, right? And so if I change to a task, I don't know if the tasks have my acceptance criteria or not. Let's check, right? But so I got lucky and they do. But if I were to change to another project, maybe this one, and I go look for that acceptance criteria, watch what happens. If I type in test and I hit create, it should not. Okay. Let me not pick a JSM project. Hold up. Let's go to this one, Team Phoenix Dev. Do I have acceptance criteria here? I do not. So if I were to click on this and the test and hit create, you notice that my acceptance criteria is being required, but it's not in my screen. I remember we've been talking about this. This is not in my screen, but it is in my field configuration. But you're like, wait a minute, Alex, I didn't modify the field configuration for this project. I was modifying the field configuration for my bug invaders. But right, this is where, again, if you're new to the world of Jira, it's so easy to overlook this little blue text here, where making this field required here didn't make it required for just that project and just the bug. It made it required for everybody and everything that share this field configuration. And that's where we get into a lot of trouble. And this is why this is the deadly sin, because Atlassian makes it way, way too easy to just come in here and make it required. And you think, right, because you went through the project, right, because you open up a project, you went to the project settings, you went to the work items for that project, you went to the fields for that project, right? You're taking all the right steps to think that you're in that project, but you're not. You're doing a global. And when you collapse it, you're going to see that this is going to be global against all of these work types. And so the moment you go to any of these other 13 projects and try to make a work item, but the acceptance criteria is not filled out, you're going to be in some big doo-doo, right? And so you want to be very, very, very careful there and not do this. You don't want to just turn this on, okay? Now, the second thing that you can do in here is click on this edit button here. And this is going to give us a slider for wiki render. And we've kind of already talked about wiki render, right? But the wiki render is essentially, if in case you all weren't paying attention, is you can make your text box have these rich texts here, right? So I can add a Loom video, I can add elements, I can add a table, I can add attachments. I can do all kinds of neat little things and formatting with my table or with my field. But if I turn this one off, if I go and turn this off and I click save, then when I hit the create button, my text box is going to look very different. It's just a text box. It's just a regular old plain vanilla text box. Nothing special, nothing interesting about it. It used to be, I want to say maybe within the last year Atlassian changed this, but it used to be that if you ever made a custom field that was of the type paragraph, it would default to this ugly, just basic text box. However, my latest experience has been that it defaults now to the wiki. But in the chat, let me know, what are you experiencing? When you create a paragraph type custom field, is it defaulting to wiki for you? Or is it this ugly old plain text box? What are y'all seeing? Because again, I have recently started seeing that they all default to a wiki style, but I'm curious to see and hear from you all to see if you're experiencing something different in Jira. So in the chat, let me know your paragraph custom fields. What are they defaulting to? Are they defaulting to paragraphs? Are they to wiki, or are they defaulting to the regular one? I am very, very, very curious about that. And so while these come in, we're going to do one more thing. So Rodney had mentioned, right? So Rodney had mentioned up on the top that another reason to use the field configuration is to add a custom project-specific field description. And so this is really interesting, right? Because when you go to a field, you can notice that some fields have a little bit of helper text, right? They have a little bit of text that tells you, what is this field for? And so for your acceptance criteria, if I wanted to add a little text, little flair, I can come here, right? And I can go, are you attending Summit in October? Right? If I add this and I click save, when I click the create button, we are going to see, hopefully, fingers crossed, a description. Oh, we don't have it. I wonder what happened there. Ronnie, help me out. Why did this not happen? Did I not hit save correctly? Nope, it's there. Ronnie, you sent me down a path of failure here. What's going on? Oh, there it is. It just takes time to cache. Never mind, Ronnie. Apparently, you do know what you're talking about. Okay. And so you can see here that I can add text, right? That is going to be a descriptor for this particular field. But the problem is, though, the problem with everything we're doing right now, and this is what we're going to shift over to in the next half, is that when we're working with our field configurations here, if I change projects, right? If I go to another project like this customer support one, well, actually, this one wouldn't have had it, right? Because it's a JSM project. The moment that I go to another project that also has an acceptance criteria, it is also going to have the same description. And so this is a problem because we are working with the field configuration that is normal to everybody, right? It's amazing that after 3 years of working together, Alex still assumes I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know, Ronnie. I guess I should trust since you are the Jira guy. But the Jira guy shouldn't be getting any questions wrong on the ACP 420. So the fact that you don't get 100% on the test is the reason why I worry. Just kidding. I like to throw a little shade. Okay. So how do we fix this, right? How do we fix this problem of, hey, we have fields here that we want to do things to, right? We do want to make acceptance criteria required, but we only want to make it required for the bug, right? Or we have a field acceptance criteria here, but we want to add this helper text just for the story or the epic, right? And so how do we do that? How do we divorce from all of this, from these field configurations? Well, again, this is what we're going to focus on the next 20, 30 minutes, is teaching you the proper way to do all of these use cases correctly. Okay. And so let's get started with that. So the first thing we're going to do, though, is we're going to default things back to the way they were. And I'm going to click on save here. And I'm going to leave the wiki off for now as well. And we're going to get started. So full disclosure, in order to do this, you do need to be a Jira administrator, because if you're not a Jira admin, you need to be at least a Jira admin, if not higher. Jira admin, administrator, site admin, or org admin. All of those are going to be useful and the only ones that are going to be able to do this. So if you're a regular user, or if you're just a project admin, you're going to have to get a hold of your Jira administrator to help you out, because without that, you're not going to get very far. Okay. So folks, in the chat here, I'm kind of curious now. Are you a Jira admin? Are you a project admin? Are you just a user? What level of administrative privileges do you have in the chat? Let me know. I'm kind of curious. Who are we talking to here? Who's these? I have 32 people in the chat here. Are you all Jira admins? Are you all site admins? Are you all org admins? Project admins? Just a user? You're like, what is Jira? Let me know. I'm kind of curious. So Chad is a project admin. So for Chad's use case, right, if you needed to do anything like this, you do need to talk to your Jira administrator. Ronnie says he's the Jira guy. So he's the Jira admin for every Jira. So if you all ever see something suspicious in your Jira, check the logs. Make sure Ronnie, the Jira guy, wasn't there. You got Karen is an org site admin. So great power comes great responsibility, Karen. But yes, you'll be able to do all of this. Tushar's a Jira admin, so you should be able to do everything we're going to cover here. Kima, you're just a user. So again, with all of this, you just need to be context, like you need to be aware that you can do this stuff, because you will need to work with your Jira administrator to help you out. This is the easiest way to get some help, or to at least understand what's going on here. Okay. So what's the proper way to do this? You need to work backwards. All right. I'm just follow along if you've never done this before. But I have a specific way of doing this, and I work off those Russian dolls, the little babushka dolls, and so we're going to work our way backwards and get better here over time. So we're going to start off with field configuration. So how do we get here, right? Well, as a Jira admin, you should be able to click on the gear and then click on work items, and then that's going to default you to work type. So once you're here, scroll down and get to your field configurations. We are not going to do field configuration schemes yet. That's going to come a little bit later today, but we're going to focus on field configurations. Now, when you click there, you're going to see that all your JSM projects have their own field configuration. And this is why when I went over here and when I changed my project to a JSM project, this is why I was able to create without acceptance criteria crashing on me, because JSM by default, for some reason, Atlassian got smarter when they made JSM projects, but JSM projects have their own field configuration. And for whatever other reason, Atlassian said, Every Jira project is going to have the same field configuration. I don't know why they did that. I kind of like the JSM route. What do y'all think? Would you prefer that every Jira project have its own field configuration out of the box? Or do you like the way Atlassian has it where out of the moment you create a Jira project, it shares the same field configuration as every other project that you make? What do you think? Do you all have a preference? Which do you think is better? Do you think it's better to have one giant field configuration that everybody shares the moment you hit create? Or do you think what they do with JSM is better, where every time you create a brand new Jira project, it has its own field configuration? What do y'all think is a better way to do this? I know I have my opinion, but I don't want to spoil it. What do y'all think? I want to hear from you all. What is the better way? Default, everybody shares it, or individualized, every project has its own? Let me know in the chat. I'm not going to leave until somebody gives me an answer. So Ronnie, if you're watching this, what's your preferred method? Or Chad, as a member here, which method do you prefer, Chad? Do you prefer shared or individual? Ronnie says it does make it easier to enforce governance to have one main default configuration. Very valid point. Challenge would be, well, what happens when you want custom stuff, right? Tushar says it depends on the WOW, way of work. Way of work, I think is what WOW means, of your org. So yeah, I think it does depend, right? But if you could be the owners of Jira, would you have preferred individual or the default one? Because I don't like this. I'm not a big fan of this one. I think Atlassian should have done what they did with JSM and let every single project have its own field configuration. That's what I would have liked. When you want custom stuff, they need to go through the governance process. Chad says, I prefer individual, but I have no say in it. That we don't. We do not. Okay, so so back to topic here, right? So we have our default field configuration, and if you look at every other field configuration I have in here, this is just going to be JSM. So you can see that they're all titled by JSM. So just ignore all of those. So the first step that I usually do, especially when I want to make a field required for a bug, is I'm going to copy the default field configuration. You do have the ability to add a new field configuration, but I'm a big fan of if it ain't broke, don't fix it type of thing. So I already have a field configuration that I've been using for like forever. And I don't know what a new one's going to give me. I don't know what's going to be turned off. I don't know what it's going to be defaulted to. So I just like to make a copy of the existing one, right? And this is where you got to now start being careful, because anytime you copy something in Jira, it's going to append this copy of. And so I like to get rid of this so people can know that I'm actually paying attention to what I'm doing, right? But once I remove it, what I do is I start making sure that my field configuration has a very specific name, right? And so I'm going to call it BI. That's usually the pattern, right? You usually, if you look at your workflows, if you look at your screens, it's going to have the key of the project. So I'm going to go BI : and then I'm going to go bug field configuration, right? Because I'm going to add it to just my bugs. I want this to just be for the bugs. And so when I click on copy, right, I'm going to have a BI bug field configuration. Again, your naming convention, you can call it whatever you want, but this is what I'm going to call mine. Ronnie says, we already got 4 deadly sins. We need 3 more. Alex, they're listed in random channel on the Jira Life Slack. Rodney, go grab them from the Jira Life Slack and share them with everybody here so that we have our 7 deadly sins before we end this session. Okay, so we have our BI bug field configuration. So what we're allowed to do once we're here, we can go to configure, right? And we can make the field that we want it required. So we can go do that. And what's nice as test, right? I'm going to give you a little pro tip. Once you have this, right? Once you've done this, what you should immediately do is test that you didn't break anything, right? And so what I normally do is I go to create. I'm still in my bug invaders. I'm in my bug. And I go down to my acceptance criteria, and you're going to notice, yes, I do not have the asterisk. So we haven't broken anything yet. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the wiki render back on. I'm going to click on save. So at this point, I have a new field configuration, and I have the field that I want to make required, and I've made it a wiki render, right? But the sanity check is that if I go to the BI project into the bug, the acceptance criteria is still the same. We haven't updated anything, right? So this is good. We're making progress in the right direction. Slow progress, but progress in the right direction. So what happens next, right? So we have our bug field configuration. Well, here's where you have a couple of options. Some teams, right, you might want to create a story one, right? Maybe your stories need to be different. Maybe your epics need to be different, right? And so I would recommend that while you're here, make all the other field configurations that you're going to need. And this is very true, very important. If you have a requirement that you need a required field for your epic that is only on your epic, if you have required fields that are only in the bug or only in the story, for each one of those, you need to make a a unique field configuration. And this is the way you do it. You just do this over and over and over. Okay. And so once we have our field configurations, you would think we would want to go back to the Jira project and apply our field configuration to the project, but we're not there yet. We have to actually go to our scheme. And so when you go to your scheme, you can click on the bottom one here. And here's where you're going to have a couple of options. You can either A, do the same thing that we did earlier. Sorry, you're only going to have one option. You're going to create a new field configuration scheme. And so once we're in here, we're going to click on add a field configuration scheme. And this is where we're going to want to call it BI default field configuration scheme. Now, can anybody tell me, why did I not add bug? Can anybody guess? Why would I not add bug here instead of default? What are your guesses? Should I add bug? Let me know as well. What do you think I should name this? What's a good name for my field configuration scheme? Should it contain the word bug? Should it not? What are your thoughts? Help me build this? What is the right way to build a field configuration scheme? What are your opinions? What are y'all thinking here? Am I right or am I wrong? Would you do something differently? Let me know in the chat. Folks, make this interactive, folks. This is all about you. So its name is Joe. I don't understand this, Rodney. I think it might have been from earlier. But in the chat, am I doing this right? What do you think? Do you think I'm doing this wrong? Would you name this something differently? I'm very curious. I want to hear your guys' feedback. I want this course to be as interactive as possible. And so what would you put here? Would you add the word bug? Would you add something else? Would you eliminate words? Would you even add the word scheme? Right? Because my 2 cents, you should definitely add the word scheme. That should be a non-negotiable. The schemes associated with the project, actual configuration should be for specific things. So yeah, so Tushar's right? So based on that, I'm making a default field configuration scheme for the project BI. And so I'm going to name it like this because I don't want to name it a bug yet. You're going to see how the bug comes into play later, right? But I don't want to be restrictive with the scheme because the scheme is a bucket. And you're going to put things into the bucket. The bug configuration is going to be one of the things we're going to put in the bucket. But we don't want to pigeonhole ourselves, right? We don't want to basically say, okay, this field configuration scheme is just for bugs, because that's not going to work out very well. So you want to make sure that when you're naming your scheme, which is the bucket, it's generic enough so that it's not confusing, okay? And so once we have that, go ahead and optionally add a description if you want to. I'm just going to click on add, right? And so Jira is going to refresh and redirect me into the field configuration scheme for my newly created scheme. Now, here's where the problem is. Here's where our first problem is. Our default is going to be the default one that we had earlier. And so you might be tempted to edit and change it to the BI one that we made, right? But don't do that because you got to think fourth dimensionally here, right? Jira's given us some important information. Our work type is default. So what does that mean? Well, it tells us what it means, right? It says use for all unmapped work types. So that means if we only want our bug to have a special field, then we shouldn't change the default one because it's going to change it for everything. And we're back to square one, right? Well, maybe square 1.5, right? But we don't want to edit this default one. And so you should normally leave the default one for anything that you don't care about. But for what you do care about, you're going to want to follow the next steps. So for items you do care about, like that bug, you're going to click this associate a work type to a field configuration. Then you want to find your work type that you care about. Now, Alaskan, you all got to catch up, man, because I cannot have associated work type with the field configuration up here. And then this text says issue type. And then this is issue type. So Alaskan, if you're watching, speed it up, people. Speed it up. If you want us to stop saying issue type and issues, then you need to stop saying issue types and issues. Can I get a +1 in the chat if you agree? Alaskan needs to catch up with this. We cannot have a mixed match between word type and issue types in these. If you're going to change the UI, folks, you got to change it everywhere. You can't half it. You can't do it halfway here. You got to commit to it. All right. Otherwise, we're confusing people. So I've clicked the big blue button, right? And I'm getting a +1s from a lot of people. So Alaskan, you definitely, we got to make this consistent here. I this is why I'm having a hard time with 2 sharps +100. Y'all, it sounds like I hit a sensitive area for everybody, right? Oh yeah, Alaskan. I love you all, Alaskan, but come on, you gotta give us a little help here every once in a while. So, anyways, you're gonna associate a work item type with the field configuration, and then you're gonna go pick your work item type. So I'm gonna pick bug. Then and only then am I gonna go pick the BI one that I did. So I'm gonna click on add. Ronnie has issues with work-related items. You have issues because you now need to rename all your branding. And our song of I Got 99 Issues by Jira Aim 1 is like no longer such a cool song anymore. So we got to redo our song. And of course, I wouldn't bring water to this session here. So bear with me as I get a drop of water. Because a drop of water is literally all I had. Okay. So we've done the work. We have created a field configuration scheme. We've broken out our bug out of our map. So only the bug is going to have this field configuration scheme. And we're ready to test this out, right? So now I can click the create button, make sure I'm in the bug, go down, and womp, womp, womp. So we're not there yet. What is going on, folks? What have I not done yet? What is the next step that I need to take? Let me know. What do you think? Because so far we're in the right direction, right? We've created a new scheme, check. We've created a new field configuration, check. And we've broken it for the bug, check. So we're good, right? We think we'd be really, really smooth sailing, that it should work. Well, we've missed a critical point, because if we go back to our field configuration schemes, we're going to notice that the default one belongs to all of these projects. But if I go find our BI one, it's empty. So we need to associate this field configuration scheme with the project. So how do we do that? Well, this is where we're going to want to go back into our project. And there might be more than one way to do this, but this is the way I do this. And I go to my projects over here on the left, go to the 3 dots, go to project settings. And then we're going to go back to the fields, right? And then once we're here, what we're going to do is we're going to click on the actions button here, use a different scheme. And now we can swap it out. Now we can go to our BI default field configuration scheme and we can click associate. And once we do that, now those changes have been applied. So now when I click the create button here and I go down to my acceptance criteria, you're going to notice that I have it required and that it now has the text, the special text type, right? I can do the wiki style, right? Awesome. But we're not done yet. So what we want to do is we want to test this, folks. So anytime you make changes in Jira, and by the way, in case I didn't mention this at the beginning, right? But a couple things for you to remember that I probably should have disclosed at the beginning. Number one, if you have a sandbox, if you're on Jira Premium or Jira Enterprise and you have a sandbox, go do all of this in the sandbox. Go practice over there. I have water outside my door. Thank you. Okay. So go do this in your sandbox. Or if you don't have a sandbox, if you don't have, if you're not a premium customer, if you're not an enterprise customer, you don't have a sandbox, go stand up a Jira for free. Jira is free and you can go mess up a Jira and completely tear it to pieces, right? But practice. You do not, I repeat, you do not want to be practicing in your production Jira. That is the last place. That is the ultimate sin, right? So if we were to add sins here, I would add that one as a sin. Experimenting in production would be one of my sins. You don't want to go learn how to use Jira in your production environment, folks. Dude, that is the last place you want to be learning. Okay, go set up a free Jira, or go to your sandbox. Now, if you don't heed that caution. Good friends of the channel here is Revise. They back up your Jira. Make sure you get something like Revise to back up your Jira in case you are violating a deadly sin of experimenting in production. Ronnie says, I get water is a human right and rightly so, but he should have worked for it. I can't leave midstream, Ronnie, and go get my water. Unless you want to come to California and get me some water, please. Watch, when we're in Spain, Ronnie, and you need water, I'm going to go, the water's over there, Ronnie. Go get it. We got all 7 filled? Oh. What? Let's review them. What were they? I got 1, 2, 3, and 4. Where is it? You left off, you stopped at 4, Ronnie. We have 1, renaming a status. 2, making a field required on a shareable field configuration scheme. 3, making a custom field similar to or duplicate a name of an existing one. 4, give everyone delete issue permission. Maybe one from King Bob, enable create team. Yeah, this should definitely be a deadly sin. So that's, I'll give you what, 5. Where's 6 and 7? Oh, there's 6. Oh, wait. No, we have too many. Any change that floods users with emails, testing and production. Okay, no, that's perfect. So we have the deadly sins of Jira. We succeeded, folks. I honestly, I did not think we were going to get all 7 sins here, but I'm glad we got all 7 sins. So that is awesome. Coming to a shirt near you, support the Jira life, and wear your 7 deadly sins of Jira shirt proudly, and support the channel. So coming soon, coming very, very soon. We'll have this in production, and we'll have a t-shirt ready for y'all. Okay. So we want to test this, right? So we tested the bug, right? We went to the bug and our acceptance criteria is good. So we're done. No, we want to do 2 more tests. The next test that I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a different work item, right? I'm going to pick one that was not the bug, one that was not in my field configuration. And I'm going to, but I'm still within the same project, right? So I'm going to stay in the same project. I'm going to pick a different work type. And then I'm going to go to my acceptance criteria, and you're going to notice that it's in the old render type and it's not required. So this is good. This means that our field configuration is doing exactly what it's supposed to do, because only when I switch to the bug is it going to show it to me the way I'm expecting. So yay. So that's test number 1 and 2. And the third and final test that I usually do is I'm going to go to another project and I'm going to try to create an issue or a work item. This is another item, and I'm going to click create. Notice, oh dang, I think I'm in a JSM one. Yep, I'm in a JSM one. I'm going to go back to my Phoenix one, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click create. Notice that I'm not filling out the acceptance criteria, because what I want to make sure is that that default one did not get impacted by anybody. So I'm going to click create, and sure enough, I'm able to create an item. So that's really, really good. So that's the third and final test that I'm going to do. Is I'm going to check the other work items in the same project, make sure those are good. And then I'm going to go to another project, one that wasn't even in scope, and try to make a work item. Because if those 2 check out, then most likely I did not break Jira and I'm not on the deadly sins of Jira. So those are going to be my tests. And so folks, that's pretty much it. Once you do that, your fields are now done. You scale this, right? You break up the epics, you break up your stories if you need to, right? But this is all now going to be based and dependent on the requirements from your team, right? So you got to listen to your team and kind of hear out what your team has to say and see what works for you, right? But that's how you properly make fields required. Now, one thing I'm going to tell you here before we close out is we talked about hiding fields, right? So in the field configuration, you have the ability to hide fields. And here's where I stand with this. So when you hide fields, allegedly, I have seen bugs in this, so this is why I'm not spending too much time in it. But allegedly, if you hide a field, then what that means is that when you try to type in here, like acceptance criteria, it doesn't show up because it's hidden. Even though the field exists, if the field configuration has it hidden, it's not going to show up. But my 2 cents, the argument that I would have is, if you don't want a field to show up, just don't include it in your screen. And that's where I'll leave it at, right? Because that's how I feel should be the better way to do it. Is if you don't want a field to be available, then just don't add it to your screen. Yes, you can go and hide it from your field configuration, but the only thing the field configuration hiding is going to do is it's going to make it inaccessible here. And the only time that you would want that to happen is if you have data, right? Because interestingly enough, you can have you can put data, right? So if you ever do an import, if you do like an import, you can populate a field like acceptance criteria. And in the database under in Jira, like in the Alaskan servers, it's going to contain that data, right? So if I do an import and I have a column with acceptance criteria and I have a value in there, when I import that value, whatever information I put in there is actually in the acceptance criteria field for that particular work item. However, if that field is not visible in your screen, then you'll never know. You'll never be the wiser. But you do have the ability to search for it. So if I did this is like not empty, then it will bring me back any item that has acceptance criteria in it, even if the field is not visible. Okay. So keep that in mind, food for thought. So the only reason you would want to completely eliminate this is if you don't want people to even use the field. And in that case, I would argue delete the field, right? But it's up to you. You have, fortunately for you, the field configuration is there for you to tweak it, right? Because maybe you don't want to delete the field because other projects are using it, and you just don't want a specific team to not use that field. But again, I would argue just don't make the field visible on the screen, and that should solve like 80% of the problems. But if you really, 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 really have to hide a field, then through the field configuration, you're gonna want to go hide that field. So those are my 2 cents on that one. Now I'm gonna go back and make sure I covered everything. So yep. Before we close out, I just want to remind you again, I am hosting this event end of October. So if you want the free copy of the Big Book of Atlassian, the only place to get it, this is not going to be available anywhere else, is going to be at this event. It's about 250 pages. We have about 210 written out already. And so this is going to be one heck of a book. It's going to be something you're going to want to have on your desk. You're going to want to get a copy for your coworkers. So bring your coworkers to the event. But yeah, the only place, and I'm going to be teasing, we're doing the table of contents release next, or maybe towards the end of the week. And so follow me on LinkedIn. So the other thing I'm going to drop here in the chat is connect with me on LinkedIn. I post a ton of stuff. And so if you want to stay up to date and in the know with everything that I'm doing, follow me with LinkedIn. Yes, it is a pity, Tushar. We had to make a call. We need to get 150 people to show up. And so the only place to get it is at the conference. So if you want the book, you're going to have to come to the conference. It's going to be the only place. Or maybe you have a friend that can make it, have them come over, and maybe they'll want to give you their book. But yeah, the event is going to be the only place where you are going to be able to get that book. But yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn. I also have a couple of courses. So I have some fundamentals and some beginner stuff for you all. So if you're interested or know somebody in your team that is interested, use these promo codes here to get them a discount to these Udemy courses. If and when I survive this October event, we're going to be revamping all of our courses as well. And so make sure you check that out. Additionally, we're in August. We're towards the end of the year now. We only have a few months left. And so we have covered a lot of videos. So make sure you come back to this channel, hit that subscribe button, go to the live tab. So if you go to my YouTube channel, if you go to Ape Tech, oops, I should probably just go on /at Ape. I don't even know my channel name. Let's see. We got Ape Tech Tutorials. All right. So if you come here and you go to the channel and then you go to the live section, you're going to see all of these right here are all the courses we've done this whole year. So if you missed one or you're new here and you haven't seen them, check them all out. We have a lot of courses and we have a few courses left. We are in the second half of the year. So we only have 4 sessions left and then we're done. So definitely go and check out the rest of the courses, sign up, become a member of the channel become a member of this channel, right? If you want to get that exclusive ones, if you want to be cool like Chad, become a member of the channel, you get some cool stuff. But also when you go to the live learnings, you can join. There's a way to join the chapter. So make sure you join the chapter here and that way you get notified whenever events come out or other courses. So definitely check it out and participate and sign up. We like to have people come over. And then again, I'm just going to close this off with, if you are going to be in the Long Beach area or want to be in the Long Beach area, October 22nd to the 24th, tell your boss the event's completely free. All you got to do is book your travel, get your butt over to Southern California, and do not miss out. We are going to be announcing our speakers very, very soon. We have almost all the speakers basically at this point almost selected. Competition's tough, but we will be making our speaker selection here very, very soon. And we also have our sponsors that we're going to be announcing. So if you want to come talk to a vendor, we're going to have a couple vendors on site that are going to be helping us make this event possible. Because holy moly, let me tell you, this stuff is expensive. We're looking at like $60,000, $70,000 to bring this thing to life. So show up and show your support and have fun. It's going to be free, 3 days only. So anyways, folks, thank you so much. Appreciate y'all being here. Hope you learned how to use field configurations. Come back next week. We're going to do sprint demos for Scrum Masters, or come back next month. We'll talk about priorities, time tracking, and links. That's it for this one, folks. Hit the subscribe button, become a member, and we'll see you in the next one.